Hi, welcome to Local Flavor. My name is Oystein Solberg, and we're at the Institute for Culinary Arts, where we're hanging out with Chef Michael Combs.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Oh, thank you for being here. I saw you brought your buddy with you, even.
I did, yeah. I brought a chicken with me, and this is a...
pretty happy-looking guy.
Yeah, this is a local chicken from one of our local farms, and they do look a little more... They look a little different. They're not as squishy as some of the commodity birds, and then they also have... The breast is a little longer than typical, so you can definitely tell a difference on them. So they don't look as, the breast isn't as large either.
Because you don't have like the pockets of like saline solution or anything.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like,
it's not pumped with anything.
Yeah, it's just a happy bird.
Nope. So, and what's crazy is though, like how tender it is for, you know what I mean? And so that's the thing.
Totally.
Like a lot of people think you got to pump it to get it tender, but you don't.
Yeah, no, like it's chicken. Like they're already awesome.
Exactly.
So what do we plan to do with anything? Should we dress it up and kind of like parade it around town?
But I was thinking, I was thinking about making a galantine out of them. So doing a galantine, it's a very old school.
It's been around for a minute, yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe for some of you guys who out there who want to do something a little more advanced, I think.
It's like a nice showpiece.
Yeah, it is a nice showpiece. And then like if you really think about it, you can do the same thing with a turkey too.
Totally.
And so I've done the same thing with turkey, and then later on, all the prep is at the beginning, and so at the end, the eating is a little easier. You don't have to slice too many bones. You don't have to do anything like that.
Yeah.
And then the truth is, like the breast meat and the hindquarters, they cook at different temperatures, you know, and so I like to do it with the turkey too, because I'll usually like comfy the legs or something like that, which is cooking its own fat for for quite some time under low temperatures, and then I'll roast or poach this guy into like 165. But
because then you can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Like,
and then awesome. You can try two different types of turkey with your guests or whatever, and then when you slice it open, it's got like a force meat in it. Yeah. Like a mousse. Don't let that freak you out. It's actually really simple to make. We'll show you how to do that. But and then when you slice it, you don't have to worry about anything in there. You know, it's a cool little showpiece, and everybody's like, "Wow, you look like you know what you're doing," all that good stuff.
Boom. All right. So how do we go about this thing? Like,
all right. So this is probably the different part that most people haven't done. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to take the clothes off this chicken. So we're going to take the skin off the chicken, and we're going to leave it all intact.
Perfect.
So we're not going to tear it all up or anything. And so the way I typically do that is I'll basically turn it over. So this is the backbone here. And I just kind of go right around its wings.
Because it's kind of like you're making yourself like a little chicken jacket though, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And so I'm just going to go around here. And if
you're basically just kind of scoring onto the wing bone?
Yep, I'm just scoring around so that way they pop off. And then for me, it always works out. If I do them both at the same time instead of them doing it individually, they pop off fairly clean. And so it's just the angle. See how they come off so easily? And then look at that. There's no cartilage or anything on there.
Just nice and clean and awesome.
And so the next thing I'll do is I just score down the back, and don't worry about like cutting, or you don't have to, watch your pressure really. I mean, there's just bone there, so.
Yeah. And there's not really any meat underneath.
Exactly, so you're not going to ruin anything.
Yeah, but making sure you don't cut through the bone.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure. So most of the time, you can just use your fingers. You don't have to use a knife for everything. That's one, I think, misconception about cooking is everybody thinks you got to use your knife for everything. Yeah. Especially like something like this. It is just easier, and it's a little more forgiving to use your fingers.
There's a less chance of cutting through the skin because you want to try and keep it as intact as possible.
Right. Oh, one more thing I forgot, sorry. Before I get going on that, is I will go around the little legs right here, leg joints, so that way it pops, it'll come right off.
And you're not trying to cut down to the bone, it's really just kind of getting through the skin so it can pull over. Okay.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. And so, anyway, so what I'm going to do is I just, like I said, rub my fingers here. Sometimes if you get those, like it's got a lot of water and saline in there, salt solution, so that way your chicken's tender and it tastes good and all this other stuff, and that's why you can cook the crap out of it and it's still tender.
But for something like this, you want to use like a high quality bird. Like you spend a little bit extra, but you get kind of what you pay for.
Right, you do, and it is easier to skin too that way.
So once you get to the wing there, you basically just pull the skin just straight over the wing, and it's
straight over the wing. Yeah, and there's a little hole.
Kind of living in like a little T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what we're doing. We're just taking the clothes off. So it'll if you tear it a little bit around here, it's no big deal. I mean. Because we're going to fold some of it under anyway.
Like overlap a little bit?
Yeah, and you may not really need all this anyway. So if you have a little bit of a hard time getting a grip on here too, you can use a towel to help you get that grip.
Was this like it's mainly just fat, the skin, so like it is going to
is.
get a little slippery as you kind of keep working on.
Yep. So you have a little fat on the breast there.
So it just pulls off so nice and neat. And this is a good thing too because you get so it makes it easier. Easier to know kind of where all the bones and stuff are at. So like if we were to like fabricate a chicken later, like this makes the process a little bit easier.
Yeah, and most of the time when you're fabricating any animal, you'll usually go around the natural seams of its muscles. Typically, it's rare. I mean, you'll cut through some muscles, of course, when you're cutting steaks and stuff like that. But otherwise, you're going to go around the natural seams.
And it's basically just pushing the leg through kind of where you scored it there, and it just pops. Okay.
And pop it off. Pop the pants off.
Pop the chicken pants off.
Yep. And so we'll just go over here to this side, this last one here.
And you just pull it right over.
Yeah, we'll pull it right over. Then we'll set it out here. I'll show you what this looks like here. So basically you'll see there's a couple of holes there where we had to pull it out, but that's pretty much what we're looking at. So when we flip it around, you're going to see like kind of where the breast, where there's a little bit of fat there. And I like to scrape that away.
Because if not, like you're not going to get that hot enough to render most of that fat.
Yeah, and then it'll just like pull, like the fat will kind of pull up, and then it'll be chewy. Yeah. And so you don't really want that. And so just be careful you don't pierce the skin.
And so just using the side of the knife, and you can use a spoon or something too.
Sure can. If you feel, yeah, you're right. If you feel a little more comfortable with that, you definitely can do that. And so we'll just put that extra fat there. But we will reserve the skin, and we'll fold it up there real quick. And
we'll make a sweater vest out of it.
Yep. Okay. And send it over here. So you'll see that we have the chicken here. So really what we want is the breast. So we're just going to use one of the breasts for the mousse. And so all I'll do is go down here. So I'm not too concerned with taking out the wishbone or anything right now. It won't get in my way.
Because you can just cut right through it anyways.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And you kind of move over the wing and onto that joint. And
yep, we'll just pop it off right there. So this is actually, I'm actually hitting that right now. And so that's where
the wishbone connects into the
Yep, and I'm going to see if I can leave it intact. You can see that. So then I have, there's wishbone. And so what I'll do is, here's a tender. And so for the tender, I'll show you what I kind of, so this is one breast here. There you go, look at that. It's a good looking breast. Basically what I'll do for this also is I will use.
Because there's a little the tendon in there that you want to get rid of?
Exactly, so I want to get rid of this little tender because I don't want to grind that up, because what we're going to do is we're going to grind this up really quick. And so then all I'm going to do is dice this up here. So we'll dice this up.
So like one breast and the tender.
That's right. One breast. We're going to dice this up, and we're going to put it in the fridge and make sure it's really nice and cold. And so I took that little tender, and this is it.
Because like the force meat they're making it like the farce, like it's kind of like a hot dog stuffing just with chicken.
Basically that is what it is.
Making. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like an emulsion.
Yeah.
Yep. But one thing we are gonna do so it's not so tight like so the emulsion isn't so tight like a hot dog, is we're gonna add fat to it, and the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna add cream. Yeah. To kind of break it up, so that way it's nice and it'll be really rich. It'll be tasty, and it won't be like rubbery. Yeah. And then this one right here, so we'll put this away. We will use these for inlays. So what I mean by that is we're just gonna, we'll kind of square it off here, and we can use the rest of this for mousse if we like to. Yeah. And then all we'll do is, if we want to inlay, we can definitely. So I'll show you what that means as soon as when we come back on this. Mm-hmm.
So just long little, kind of like little chicken fingers out of it, basically.
Yep. And then we're just gonna season these up and sear them real quick and use these for the inside. Perfect. Meanwhile, we'll chill these out, and then this right here. We'll take the back legs off. We can use them for whatever you want, basically. I usually like to use them for comfy or something like that if I'm doing something like this. And then I'll definitely like to keep this chicken here to use for a stock. Yeah, delicious. Yep. I'm excited. All right, so we're going to put these puppies in the fridge for a little bit, get them all nice and chilled, and we're going to show you guys how to make this farce and all this fun shenanigans. Yeah. So you guys stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we'll show you the way of the farce. All right, we're back here again, and a whole bunch of things just appeared. Yeah, we got some things going on. This is magical. Like, this is awesome. So we have the chicken for the Galantine. So these are the inlays. Yeah. So this was like the chicken breast I just kind of cut into little strips, right? Yep. Like the ones you were talking about, the chicken finger kind of looking things. I love chicken. And so these are they're still raw. Yeah. They're just real quick. They're nice and brown because the force meat will hold on to that. And then what we also have here is...
Because like you don't have to worry at all about getting doneness on them because it's all going to cook together afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to put a little bit more oil in here for just a tad bit.
And utilizing the same pan, like you basically get to capture all the souks out of it.
Exactly. All the flavor, all that brown bits and pieces in there. That's what you want. And so we're just going to add some garlic. And I don't have this pan crazy high or anything right now. So.
Yeah, because you want to avoid getting too much like coloration on the garlic. You just want to sweat it, just kind of nice and gentle.
We just want to pull out all the flavors and then, you know, since it has some moisture in there too, it kind of helps pull up some of those souks and stuff. And so it's kind of deglaze that. I'll hit it with a little salt.
And the salt will help just pull moisture out of the shallots and just
that's exactly. That's what I like to do when I sweat things. I'll hit them with salt too because it stops the browning because it starts pulling out the water.
Yeah.
And unless you want browning or something, like when you're doing potatoes, if I'm pan cooking potatoes, then that's a good idea. Then I definitely won't, I don't put any salt in there until later on.
Yeah.
But,
oh, that's just already smelling delicious.
Yep, and then we'll hit it with these mushrooms here.
And you can just use just about any kind of mushroom, or you can even make it without mushroom if you wanted to. Like.
Yeah, you do not have to use mushrooms, but whatever you do use, whatever you decide to put in asparagus, whatever in there.
Yeah.
I recommend I would say cook it.
Yeah.
Because if you put something in there raw, it's going to have too much water in there, and you'll have pockets, you'll have pockets in that farce, and you'll see that. You're going to see like how nice and tight it is.
Because not all of the water is going to get absorbed into the farce. Like a lot of it will just kind of stay suspended.
Yeah, it just stays suspended, and then the product itself will shrink, and which even shows you even more. And so this is just, you don't have to use this, but this is just reduced chicken stock.
Okay.
And so, you know that, wow, look at that.
Oh, that's
serious
beautiful.
stuff. So it's just cooled down, and it looks just like a little gelatin.
So as you make chicken stock, like you're kind of creating gelatin. So it's just all natural gelatin that makes it sticky with you.
Exactly, and that carcass that you had left for it, that's what you can make your own stock with.
Yeah.
I like to do them in a pressure cooker if I'm pushing it, like just 1 hour with a pressure cooker. Put everything in there. If you blanch the bones first, put them in there. Put everything in there for 1 hour, and it makes great chicken stock.
Quick and delicious.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Little boozy booze.
And so a little Madeira. Madeira's got a very distinct taste. Okay,
yeah.
So there's no. If you think there's something else, I mean, you can use brandy though, right?
Yeah.
You can definitely use brandy, but it has a very distinct taste. There's nothing else like it.
But like it's a very nice pair with chicken though.
It is.
Like they match up really nicely.
I don't know if it may not flame. There may not be that much much in there. So all we're gonna do here is we're gonna let that reduce. We're gonna put it on low. And while that's reducing, we're gonna get the chicken farce going. What do you think?
Might as well, right?
Yeah. So all we're gonna do here is we have a really nice cold bowl that Chef Solberg had in the cooler for me. Popped in there because I forgot to put it in there, and then we have some chicken that we diced up, just ends and pieces, that sort of thing. It's nice and cold.
So like you could be using the hindquarters for this as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, you sure could. You can do. You bet you can do that.
Unless you just use both the breasts for inserts and just make force out of the hinds.
Right. You bet you. And exactly. You can do two. You can make two galantines and use the hindquarters for that. So I just put it with a little salt and pepper. I usually anytime I'm making any type of paste or any type of emulsion with meat, I always put salt in there because the salt kind of helps rub off other like salt soluble proteins, like sarcoplasmic proteins, and it makes it sticky. That's how we make our glue with a lot of things. We'll do that with sausage, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is already going, so we got to work pretty quick. We're going to hit it with a little bit of 1 egg white.
Okay. So that's just additional protein that's going to help capture water and kind of help bind it all, right?
Exactly. And so I don't want to leave it run too much though, because if I do, it'll get too hot because that blade's spinning. And so
there's a lot of friction going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of friction going on there. And so the last thing I'll do is we'll hit it with some cream because that's going to be our fat in there. So I'll just kind of pulse it.
Just like short little bursts and kind of get it like worked in.
Yep. This is about 3/4 of a cup of cream, which does pretty well with about 8 ounces of product. Mm-hmm. And so
then we got a little bit of the reduction already made.
Yep. And so actually you're gonna see this is actually the reduction too.
Yeah.
So we would put this in there right now, but it's hot.
Yeah.
And so we made some ahead of time. Yeah, look at that.
Magic. Like, so this is all the souks and all of the deliciousness and all
That's all of this right here.
all the really good stuff. Right, so it just looks like hot dog meat, but with chicken.
Yep.
That looks delicious.
Sure does.
Right, so you ready for the hoopla? Or you want to pop it on there?
Sure, would you?
I'm gonna use my finger.
So, yep.
That's what fingers are for, right?
Exactly. And so what's important is, you could put this in a bowl. I'm just gonna try to show you just to minimize here. But all I'm gonna do is kind of fold this in. I don't really wanna pulse it again.
Yeah, because it's better underworking it than overworking.
Yes. And so you're gonna see, look at that. So it's nice, kind of fluffy, and that stuff is nice and cold. Because if I put this in there and it's hot, it's just gonna start melting everything else that it shouldn't be melting. And so I'm gonna reach over here real quick and grab this guy.
So like that's the skin that we cleaned off. This little puppy, like nice and flat. Like no significant like lumps of fat left on there.
No, and it's okay
delightful.
if it's not that great looking. I mean, really, because you can always trim it off, and then when you pull it out too, if there's any ends and pieces that don't look good, I mean, then you can just eat those yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like
there's a use for everything.
Yeah, there's a use for everything, exactly.
So there's some plastic wrapped on here. Like, what's the purpose of that one?
Yeah, so we sorry about that. I should have mentioned that.
Oh, that's all right.
Good catch. So basically, there is a little plastic wrap, and then after the plastic wrap, we basically put our chicken skin down, and the reason why we did that is because we're gonna wrap it up into like a torchon,
So it's just kind of like making like rolling sushi, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. Same exact concept. You probably could use a sushi roller, honestly. I mean, with plastic.
But then you get like chicken skin on a sushi roller, and it'll get weird.
And so all we're gonna do here is we're just gonna put some inlays in here.
All right, so when now like the insets have kind of cooled down to room temp too, so like you're not adding anything that's too hot or gonna like disturb the hoopla.
And they're nice and cool already. And it's up to you. You can use them all. You can use this for another one, whatever you want to do. I just put a little more on top, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be perfect because I'm just gonna roll it up again anyway.
Just trying to cover up, so just like nice even layer all the way around.
Yep, just a nicely even layer. And so I know it looks a little ugly right now, but
it'll all come together.
Yep, it'll all come together. And so then what I like to do is I'll take this plastic wrap here
and just use that to lift it all together.
Yep. Ooh. And so since I kind of have a bigger spot right here, I'm going to come this way instead because I put a majority of the stuffing on this side. So one thing I try not to do though is I try not to make it more like a pinwheel. I don't really want a pinwheel look, you know.
So by that you mean like tucking the skin into the force?
Exactly. Because then all it does is it's like double the skin in there, and then when you cook it, it's like real rubber. It doesn't get doesn't look very good that way. And so so all we do.
Oh, that meats are very nice.
Yep. So all we'll do is
like so basically the skin just meets head on. Like it doesn't try and just fold into itself and get all funky.
Yep. And so just takes a couple of seconds here. We'll get it in there.
And the plastic wrap is both to kind of help shape it, but then we're going to use that one to poach it as well later on, right?
Yep. And so then see how it's nice and uniform looking?
So basically just pinching the sides and rolling it to create tension.
Yes. And so it's important to have that tension on there because this is what's going to keep it shaped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take a little practice because it doesn't always happen, you know, this or when you tie the ends off, right? Then it comes off a little bit.
But like practice this, like make like some compound butters or whatever, and like it's the exact same thing, kind of rolling that up, and it's just good practice because if it doesn't work out, you can always rewrap it and try again.
You can. So the other thing is like what you could do is like some things I do sometimes, just kind of a beginner's thing, is I'll either tie. You can tie them here, but sometimes it's not tight enough if you haven't done it before, or sometimes if I make it long enough, I'll just tie it here.
Yeah.
Looks like this. So either way is fine. Because all you're going to do is you're just going to poach it.
But you want to make sure it has enough tension because that's going to help the proteins kind of stick together as well. So it makes sure that it's just like very nice solid contact all the way through.
Exactly. So you got a nice little package right here. And so then what we do is we'll poach it. And the difference between boiling and poaching is the temperature. So between 160 and 180 degrees is what we want to put it into our liquid. So just some water, you can poach it in water because it's not going to take anything in. So you don't need any chicken stock, you don't need any of that sort of thing. And then you're going to poach it till it's 165 degrees internally.
Yeah. Because traditional, this was probably poached in like a cheesecloth or even like a towel or something.
Yeah, you're probably right. More like a towel, I bet. And then also in a nice rich chicken stock is what it was typically poached in. And then after you pull it off, they'll typically, or back in the day, the classic way of doing it is pulling it off and then letting it cool in the stock itself. And then
it just pulls flavor in and turns into.
And it would be more magic. Of a cold, and then they would chauffoie and make it look nicer, which is like a cold sauce on there that kind of sets up. But that's like that's very old school. We do teach it here though.
But it's old.
Yeah, it was very old school, but we teach it just so basically so people kind of know what they're what we're talking about. But so you can do these ahead of time if you like, right? I mean, you can do these all like if you have company coming over, you're gonna entertain. You can always do these even a couple of days ahead.
But this is going to easily be a 2-day process.
Yes.
So like one day, like you could be fabricating the chicken, making your farce, and day 2 you can poach it, let it cool down, and then all you got to do a day of is like saute it a little bit and all that fun stuff.
And then you can, so out of one chicken, you can learn all kinds of stuff really, because I mean, out of that chicken, you can use the bones, you can make your own stock, then you can make your own reduction like we did, and then you can use the hindquarters for the stuffing inside of here. You can use that whole bird. And so
we'll finish off the Madeira and then we'll
come back
in a little bit.
So we're going to get this poaching, right? Yeah. And come on back and then we'll show you what it looks like.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir.
Cool. Yeah.
You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. We're back here again. And we got our beautiful little bird just hanging out.
Yep.
Looking happy.
Ready to poach.
So we got like a little setup over here. Like so we just got a deep pot with just water, right? Because nothing's going to get through the plastic, so you can use whatever liquid you want. If you did go in like a cheesecloth or whatever, like as we said, like just go into stock or use duck fat if you have it laid around. Like
that'd be fun. You could fry them too. I've seen people deep fry them.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful; they might blow up on you depending how much air and whatnot's in them. But
potentially,
And then take the plastic off too if you're gonna fry.
Oops. All right, so I'm basically going to try and just keep the water like about like 165. Like the closer to like intended doneness you can get it, the easier it's going to be to manage. But then it's just going to float around there until you measure like 165, and then just kind of call it a day.
That's pretty much it. It'll take a little while, especially since you're poaching it at 165, 170. It's going to take a while. A lot longer than what you'd think. It could be 30, 35 minutes, maybe even 40 or 45.
Yeah. But it just kind of depends on what the temperature is when it goes in the water. Like, is it starting fridge cold? Is it starting room temp? Like, there's a lot of variables. So the only way is just using a thermometer.
That's for anything, really. That's what we tell. That's what I tell everybody.
It's by the acts of magic. Okay, but we got one that's movie magic done.
Yeah, you want to cook this one up for us?
Might as well. I thought you'd never ask. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of oil and a little bit of butter. I like using both, but you get kind of the good flavor of butter but you get a little bit better smoke point on it, so it won't just burn like too rapidly.
Right.
So like the inside we got nice and seasoned. Then I'm going to go over and season up the skin a little bit. Just a little salt and pepper on there. It never hurts.
No, it doesn't.
Alright, so we'll get this nice and bubbly. And you want to be fairly careful with it, like because the skin could start to unwrap. So I usually start like with the seam of the skin first. That'll usually helps it kind of set a little bit.
So you'll put that side down first?
Yeah. Yep. But we'll start out with like not too high heat either. Like if it's too high heat, like it might try and just kind of peel off.
Sure, that's true. It gets stuck to the pan. There's a lot of things that can happen.
Yeah. So, but we'll give it a whirl and we'll see what happens. All right, so the butter is just starting to brown. It means like all the water is out. And we'll just kind of start it out. And we're just going to keep it moving a little bit so it doesn't stick too much. And like we're already too done this. So we're basically just trying to get a little bit of coloration on the skin. But I'm not going to try and get like a total GBD type thing on it. We're just going to kind of roll it in a little bit of the butter.
And you can see that it's already, and since we didn't poach it directly in liquid, the skin's it's not completely like
it retains
wet.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it soaks up so much liquid, you know, and so.
You see, like the skin just kind of starting to kind of swell a little bit.
Yep, it's starting to pop, isn't it? Like kind of swell a little bit, and that's where you might have where it could separate.
Yep.
Because basically that skin is shrinking.
Yep. So like that's why you want to just kind of like a nice steady heat. That way, kind of the product on the inside of the skin is shrinking at about the same speed. But the addition of butter as well, it's going to help us get a little bit more color on the skin a little bit quicker. But you just got to be more careful with the heat so it doesn't just burn and kind of get funky.
Well, but it's looking good and it smells great too.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can smell like the butter. You can smell it starting to brown. It's looking pretty good.
So I like kind of keeping it moving. That way, kind of get a nice, fairly even kind of coloration on it. But you could go like side by side as well, and it will work fine.
Yeah, you can see it's just starting to bubble up a little bit.
Oh, it's looking good. Like it doesn't look like it's peeling too much or anything. Oh yeah, it's looking happy.
That's looking good too. So the other thing, some people they do like to roast them. I've seen people roast them.
Yep.
Roasting you can definitely do. I've seen people deep fry them before too. Be careful doing that though. Like I said, I mean, I've seen if you do that, sometimes you got to worry about the skin though too, and so you might want to pop a toothpick or two through there if you're going to do something like that. Looking good.
Yeah, this puppy is just like nice and golden. Like I'm not trying to get like a hard sear on it. It's just kind of get a little bit of coloration.
Yeah, a little flavor on there, so you're not eating something like gooey.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that looks happy.
Yeah. Can I steal this here?
Oh, go for it.
So we're gonna slice into. So this is the part that I'm always everybody that makes one of these like Galantine, you want to see the inside to see if it's what the inside looks like and the inlay and all that good stuff. So, well, I'll just cut it straight down.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
So we have.
So it's just, you see like the nice inlay right in the middle, beautiful doneness on it. Force meat wrapped like very nice and evenly around.
Yep, and you see that, and it's nice and juicy still.
Oh yeah, because it's a very gentle cooking method.
It
and
is
like
very
normally,
gentle.
like it's kind of like one of the downfalls with chicken. Like it got a generally low fat content, but by adding the cream and all that good stuff to it, like it got so much more ways of kind of holding on to moisture.
Yeah, and you can.
We need to eat
a
that.
little
Like,
salt. I don't even know if it needs it, but usually.
Oh,
looks
that's
like we season it pretty well.
That's awesome. We need to eat all of this.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it all.
Oh.
Yeah, the mousse is great.
Yeah, good
Great
texture.
texture. Yeah, excellent texture.
Oh, that looks happy.
And it's not dry at all.
Yeah. Oh, it looks beautiful. Yeah, so
Perfect.
it's a little bit of a process, but like with kind of spending a couple of days on it, like it's a good, if you have the time to do it, it's a good thing to just try. Because it's not like it's impossible, but it just requires a little bit more advanced prep and kind of like thinking through the process, like how you're going to achieve each step.
And the same technique is if you think same technique of poaching or wrapping something, poaching it and cooking it. I mean, you can do it with beef too.
Yeah, totally.
You can, and so once you poach it and that sort of thing, it'll set its shape. Typically, you can brown, season it, brown it, roast it, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do the same thing with that. But it is cool to do. So it's just something to do with chicken, something different to do with chicken.
Totally. Yeah, because everybody's had
turkey,
like a regular
whatever.
chicken breast or fried chicken or whatever, but
Yes.
old school. Awesome. Well, thank you for showing me this. This was sweet.
Anytime.
We need to eat like the hoopla out of this, so it's gonna be awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Chef Combs, for showing me all your chicken magic, how to make like a little chicken sweater and everything.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for force meat and everything. This is sweet. So thank you guys. Make sure to stay tuned for future episodes and whatever other shenanigans we come up with. So thank you guys much, and just keep on cooking.
See ya.